Welcome back to the Card Pool. I'm your host, Stu.
And I'm Kyle.
And be prepared to break out those bank accounts because we're looking at the money cards in Mirrodin.
Exactly, and these are some pretty well-known and pretty pricey money cards, so be prepared for this one.
Indeed. Now again, we are not as prepared as we normally are because we took this information from a while ago, and it's a little out of date since then, so the order's a little incorrect that we're going to present to you, and the values aren't going to be on point. But it's about the cards that we can't pick, which is the most important part of this.
Exactly. These were things that were left out of our Hidden Gems reviews, so the ones that we could not pick for those because they were too valuable.
But we're going to dive in anyway and say, you know what, the water's cold, but I'll get over it. So at number 1, we are looking at a card which everyone in competitive Magic knows as Chromemox. Now this is a 0-drop artifact with imprint, and it means when this card enters the battlefield, you may remove a non-artifact, non-land card in your hand from the game. And then you can go ahead and tap to add 1 mana of any of the imprinted card's colors to your mana pool. Why is this so heavily sought for? And at the time we looked this up, was $62. It has gone up since then. And the reason being is, why not get free mana? Sure, if there's a card in my hand I can't use, or I don't even need, or I actually want it in exile, why not make it so I get rid of that and I can actually be able to play a turn 2 play on turn 1?
Right, and I mean, the fact that this is 0 mana, it taps for basically whatever color you want at any given time. I mean, most of the point of competitive commander decks anyway is just to play the commander. Like, most of the other cards don't really matter. So who cares if you're getting rid of cards from your hand? It lets you play your commander faster, and you're probably winning faster.
Exactly, and that's the whole point about this. This is accelerating the deck. And cards like these are really accelerating the deck.
Oh yeah, but the hilarious thing though is that, you know, like outside of that kind of thing, I probably wouldn't really bother playing this card, honestly. Like, even if it were not $60 a pop, I wouldn't be playing this in basically any deck. Like, I just don't care enough about mana ramp for that.
Well, people make mana differently, and like we've said with a couple cards in the past, like a Goblin Charbelter, this would enable certain kind of combos and abilities and stuff like that to make it so, hey, you can go ahead and make something janky, crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's great.
I'll just stick with my Arcane Signets and Talismans and Soul Rings, thanks. Just me.
But moving on to number 2, now this is a card that we do see in Commander and probably the most iconic form of imprint in the game for us.
Absolutely it is. So number 2 on our list was $41 when we first looked at it, but it is Extra Planar Lens. This is a 3-mana artifact with an imprint ability. When it comes into play, you exile target land you control. Then whenever a land with the same name as the imprinted card is tapped for mana, its controller adds 1 mana to their mana pool of any type that land produced. So this card single-handedly is pretty much the reason why you see people play Snowlands all the time. You may wonder, why is that deck playing Snowlands when they don't even have any snow cards in it? Well, it's probably because you're running this card, and if you're running like mono-color deck, you probably should have this.
Yeah, the reason being is because this effect works on all players, and most players are typically going to have basic lands. Well, why would I want to give an opponent an advantage and take my mana cap down? I wouldn't. So let me be tricky and play a different kind of basic land, a snow-covered island, a snow-covered mountain, etc. Until they make another name with on a basic land like that, we're going to keep seeing that for this particular reason.
Yeah, and although I think that's kind of unfair with this card too, because like in a perfect world, we all should be playing snow basics all the time in every deck, because there's no downside to doing it. There's just upside.
But also, one of the things that is really good for this is this was before colorless was a thing, so wastes now are able to actually get ramp for them, which is really good. It's not as easy to go ahead and tutor this out and get all the working parts for them, but it gives them a competitive edge to get speed.
It is true. So I think that honestly, like, you know, if we lived in an ideal world, this card would not be nearly as good as it is. But, you know, it is what it is. And even if you want to run this in your monocolor deck with just basic lands, if you're okay with maybe giving someone else an extra mana or 2, it's really good. You should be playing it.
But the thing is also, if you look at that in the perfect world, this is its own paradox, right? Then people would run regular basics to counteract that.
Yeah. Well, my point is, this whole snow versus regular basic, it's kind of academic. Like, just play this card. If you're in a monocolor deck, you should be playing it. You have no reason not to.
It's pumpkin spice versus a pumpkin spiced ice latte. Yeah, I can't talk. All right, moving on to number 3. We are looking at a card that is beautiful. Chalice of the Void. Now, this card got totally done up in its art in an amazing way. So this is an XX artifact, and it reads, Chalice of the Void comes into play with X charge counters on it. And whenever a player plays a spell with the converted mana cost equal to the number of charge counters on Chalice of the Void, counter that spell. So yes, this is a continuous counterspell if the CMC just lines up oh so right. And in competitive Magic, it will.
Yeah, because most of the good spells are either 0, 1, or 2 mana. And if you put this on any one of those things, it's going to stop a lot of counter spells. It's going to stop a lot of interaction. It's going to be a huge pain.
Now, this wouldn't work with something like a Force of Will, which would go ahead and reduce it. Like, it's reducing its cost to be free, but the CMC really is still 5. And this card also, again, value has changed, but when we looked at it, it was around $38. Continuous free stuff is great. Continuous free stuff that hurts your opponent, even better. So why not use a Chalice of the Void for that? The only thing is going ahead and getting these counters put onto it. It says the particular type of counter on it, and charge counters really aren't that good in the game on their own. So you would need some sort of form of proliferating to go ahead and get this the kind of value you want, or some way to reduce the counters at instant speed to mess with your opponents. You can do that in response to them casting something and countering it, but it is a little tricky to do. Attract is really good at going ahead and upping the counters, but beyond that...
Yeah, but outside of CEDH, this is another one of those cards where I'm like, why bother? Why would you even bother playing this card? Because all it's going to do is make people hate you.
It's like counterbalance. Like, do you run counterbalance? It's like, I really want to. Like, I really want to go ahead and make it so everything's... Like, you reveal a card and it's countered potentially, but...
Some things are just too mean, even for me. I gotta say no to this one, so...
You're being modest.
Just me.
All right, now moving on to your number 4, Kyle.
All right, well, this kind of card I can get behind. Number 4, it's Krark's Thumb. And back when we looked at this
Don't
list...
say it like that, Kyle.
It is $32. It has gone down a little bit since then, but it's still pretty pricey. It is almost one of a kind. It's a 2-mana legendary artifact. If you would flip a coin, instead you flip 2 coins and ignore 1. So there is a lot more of coin flipping cards these days than things that we have had in the past.
I'm trying so hard not to laugh right now. Oh, just go on. I need a minute.
All right. Well, so like I was saying, there are a lot more coin flipping cards these days. Dungeons & Dragons actually introduced a bunch more. There have been a few in some supplementary Commander products. So the idea of, turning a random 50-50 coin flip into much better odds of picking whichever one you want to have happen, it's a lot better, obviously. And Krark's Thumb is one of only like a very small handful of cards in the game that actually do this. So, of course, it's gone up and up and up in value as more and more Coin Flip Matters cards are printed.
Can you repeat that? I wasn't listening.
All right, should we
No, I'm kidding. All right, yeah. It's obviously it's good for coin flipping, and it's one of those things that became better because there's a commander that was all about coin flipping.
A couple now, yeah.
Yeah, but Krark himself was printed, and people were like, "What?"
Yeah.
Now there is another card with the thumb. It's an uncard, and people are screaming like, "Let's go ahead and make it un-und."
Krark's other thumb.
So it's actually interesting to see if we'll ever see Wizards go ahead and un a card so we can use it in Commander. Like they do that sometimes with some stuff, or similar effects. But until we get that, he's gonna have one thumb for Kyle to get behind. Now moving on to our number 5 card. Now this is an iconic card for how much it wins the game as soon as you cast it. Tooth and Nail. Now at the time, $29 when we're looking. Now this card has been reprinted, and we always know why, because Wizards wants to make some more money. This is a 7-drop sorcery. It costs 5 and double green. Now it is an entwine card, so it has 2 effects that you can choose one of or choose both if you want to pay an extra 2 colorless mana. The first being search your library for up to 2 target creature cards and reveal them, put them into your hand, and then shuffle your library. The second being put up to 2 creature cards from your hand into play. Now, this is notorious because there's a lot of turn 2 card combo pieces that just flat out win the game. You play Tooth and Nail, that more or less makes it a single card win the game card because you're going to be able to use the 2 card combos to win the game. I know I'm saying this in a very weird way, but we'll use Kiki Jiki for an example. Kiki Jiki goes infinite with a bunch of cards, and we'll use Zealous Conscripts, for example,
sure.
right? We'll say we're in green-red. So you pay 9 mana, you'll find both of them, and you put them both into play. Kiki-Jiki has haste. We'll go ahead and we'll tap Kiki-Jiki to go ahead and make it so Zealous Conscripts gets a copy. Zealous Conscripts goes ahead and targets Kiki-Jiki and keeps going.
I personally would pick Deadeye Navigator and Peregrine Drake for infinite mana, but that's just me. This is just one of those cards which this is on my like actual short list of cards I want to see banned in Commander.
I'm with you.
Because it's just like, it's 9 mana, it might as well just say you win the game if this resolves, because you should. And if you're not playing something that wins the game when you cast Tooth and Nail, then why are you playing Tooth and Nail? Let's be honest.
that's not nice.
I just don't see it.
But actually, that would be I would love to be at a game where someone plays Tooth and Nail and they don't win. They just.
I know. I've seen it, and it's like I take it as like a personal insult, and I'm like, what? Why?
Then why would you want the card? Never mind. Anyway, but yes, that's people's gripe about this card. It should win you the game when it is cast and uncountered. And again, we gave combos that are in the same color. Like, those are 2 blue cards, mine were 2 red cards. If you want to go across borders, like, you get even more options with this. And again, why? Like back in the day, sure, like 9 mana was like, wow, like that guy should win.
With all the ramp options we have, it's like, come on, this is not even hard, guys.
Yeah, you could do it like turn 6 if you want to do it kind of slow.
Yeah, so it's just, I mean, it's great, and I'll play it, but I don't like it, honestly.
But moving on to our number 6.
Yes, so number 6 here, a little more interesting card to talk about here, Sword of Cauldron. Now this was $23 when we looked. It may have gone down a little bit since then because we now have Cauldron completed.
Oh, we'll get into that card in a second.
We'll get into that in a minute. But yes, the Sword of Cauldron is one of 3 Cauldron artifacts. This specific one is a 4 mana equipment that equips for 4. The equipped creature gets +5/+5, and it gets what I like to call Mega Death Touch, which is when the equipped creature deals combat damage to another creature, remove that creature from the game. I should correct myself, deals damage to a creature, not combat damage. It's part of what makes this card actually decent.
And would work with really
very high equip cost, very high playing cost. You know, it's not super efficient, but the fact that it then translates any damage, like we were talking about Viridian Longbow, into, you know, like super mega death touch damage, like I was talking about.
Yeah,
it's kind of good, actually.
3 mana exile creature. Now, again, the equip cost is a little steep on this, and rightfully so. Now, there are the 2 other equipments that you were saying. Now, what they would do is go ahead and kind of transform or meld, or what was the thing
they combine, they create a creature token and then all attach to it, and basically this would be like a giant, I don't remember the stats exactly, creature token that has like indestructible, the mega death touch thing, and it has trample and haste and whatever stuff, a lot of stuff.
It was obviously for the time really powerful, but it was also very clunky and slow. And now, again, these cards weren't reprinted for some time. Now, they became a lot rarer. They weren't exactly good, but the price was there for a good reason. Yeah. Now that we got Cauldron Complete, which was an awesome card, it's kind of better because you don't have to go through as many hoops and whistles and bells.
It's just 7 mana for a 5/5 that has a bunch of abilities, and it's a living weapon. So, yeah, it's pretty much this whole rigmarole, but better. So why would you bother playing the Cauldron artifacts anymore? I don't really know unless it's for style points.
Nostalgia.
Go for it. Like, it's cool, whatever.
Or if you like an equipment deck and you're like, you know what, I'm tired of seeing just some regular stuff, like, it can be a way to win, potentially.
It could be.
Now, moving on to number 7. Now, we're looking at a card called Necrogen Mist. Now, this is an enchantment that costs 3 mana, 2 generic, and a black. And at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player discards a card from his or her hand. It's a very simple, very easy card to read and have what it wants to do happen. It's good in discard decks. There are discard decks out there. Like Nath of the Guilt Leaf is a great example of that, creating creatures.
Oh, come on, you can do better than that. Turgrid, God of Fright, Tiny Bones. There's all kinds of discard commanders now. Like, this card, when it was originally printed, was kind of so-so, not so great. Nobody really cares about the discard. There were a handful of discard cards that, like, punish people for discarding cards.
Ironic with that term.
Yeah, but there weren't commanders that did it. Now there are many, actually.
Yeah, like there was tons of, like exactly what Kyle's saying there for that. And again, for it to be a free effect that goes off every time, that's great.
Yeah.
Like, you're not putting mana into this. This is on its own. Now, sure, it's one player at a time, and it even affects you. but you're in black. You're gonna reanimate. It's gonna
Yeah, you
not
want to
really
be
hurt
discarding those cards more than likely.
Yeah. So I mean, like also like discard some sort of huge demon, then pay 1 for reanimate.
Yeah,
I'll take that.
And there are
turn
so
4.
many, and even outside of commanders, there are so many cards nowadays that get payoffs from discarding cards. Bone Miser, that's just 1, and Waste Not, those are 2 off the top of my head. You know, it's just crazy how many there are.
Yeah, I mean, also you can do something else with it where it's like, all right, I'll just go ahead and dump like a Bloodghast into the grave or a Grave Crawler, where it's like, it's kind of like discarding Squee. It doesn't affect me, it only helps me.
Yeah, there's basically no reason not to run this if you're playing some kind of deck that cares about people discarding cards, you know.
Yeah, but at number 8, now this is a card I've always enjoyed. It is a crafty little piece of artifact tech.
It is indeed. Number 8 on our list is Proteus Staff. And this has stayed pretty constant at around $10 to $12 for a really long time because it just has never been reprinted, shockingly enough. So it is a 3-mana artifact that for 2 colorless and 1 blue has a tap ability that lets you put target creature on the bottom of its owner's library, and then that creature's controller reveals cards from the top of their deck until they reveal a creature card. They put it into play and put the rest on the bottom in any order. This is a recurable polymorph on an artifact. You can only use it on your own turn, which is sort of a downside, I guess. But remember, this is like, it has the Chaos Warp thing going for it, where if you steal something from somebody else, you can give it back to them and still profit off it yourself. That's why this card is good.
I think you can use Chaos. Oh, yeah.
It's the same kind of, it's the same kind of tricky wording on it. However, it's also notable that you don't have to do that tricky stuff for this to be good. You can just use it on yourself. Polymorph a little tiny token into whatever giant creature you have on top of your deck.
Well, this is also used for a win con. So you can go ahead, you use this on a player, and then you tunnel vision them. Go ahead, mill out their entire deck, and now they just have that creature on top.
Yes, because notably it says put the cards that you look at on the bottom in any order. Most of the cards today have been fixed to say random order, but this basically, if you have 1 creature in your deck, lets you rearrange your deck exactly how you want it to be.
Yeah. So this is pretty A-okay in that regard. Like, sure, they are going to have a chance to possibly still be in it, but I'll rather take him down to maybe 8 cards and give him a clock to go ahead and play on.
Exactly. So yeah, it's a very interesting card. It can be used offensively, it can be used defensively.
And it's a political tool.
Right, and you could even just, it's a great thing to stick around and just, if somebody plays a threatening creature, I'm just going to get rid of that. Let's take a chance. Probably be something less scary later on. But yeah, so it's just kind of a recurable piece of removal that sits there being annoying to people. Even that's pretty good to me.
Yeah, I agree. Now moving on to 9, we're going to look at one of the more famous cards in Magic that everyone, when they first start playing, they see it and they just go over. Platinum Angel. Now this is the OG from Mirrodin. It costs 7 mana. It's all colorless for a artifact creature angel with a 4/4 body. It has flying, like all angels do, and you can't lose the game, and your opponents can't win the game. This is a great card to make it so that you can stay in the game for as long as you want, or to use some sort of combo to abuse the game's mechanics. Like how many times do you have to pay life to do something? Well, my life's getting low, I can't keep paying. Well, now with Platinum Angel out, you can go ahead and get around that. So something like a Bolas' Citadel isn't going to kill you, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, or you have a Phyrexian Unlife, which turns any damage you would take into Infect, but once you get 10 Infect, you lose. Oh no, you actually don't. As long as this is out, you can take as much damage as you want. It's not going to make any difference.
Or somebody makes you lose your entire deck, or somebody deals so much damage to you, or like there's so many different caveats to this. Like,
as long as you can keep this out and protect it via some kind of like Hexproof Shroud or Indestructible, it's going to be really tough to get you out of the game.
Yeah, very, very much so. Now, again, the one thing with this card, this has been reprinted rightfully so, because when this effect first hit the game, this is kind of like the first you don't lose the game effect we've ever seen in Magic, so it became iconic for that. Now, with the new Kamigawa set, with a equipment creature who almost has the same effect as this, it's kind of getting a little outclassed. We have seen other cards where it's like you can't lose the game and your opponents can't win.
Yeah,
like,
heck, we had a Planeswalker that did that.
We did. And, well, like Platinum Empyrean, I think, was like the next one that really came out.
That means your life total can't change, which isn't exactly the same thing, but it's close.
But it's only good if you're going to lose through life. But Platinum Angel hits all other win cons, which is really nice. And honestly, I don't know how it works with Approach to the Second Sun. Like, if they go ahead and make it so they play the second cast, they don't win but the other players lose, are you two still in it?
Oh yeah, you absolutely would still be in the game. Yeah, because if you, well, actually no, you wouldn't be, because Approach of the Second Sun doesn't say anybody else loses, it just says you win, and since they can't win, it does nothing.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, right?
So I wonder what happens if you
Really
cast it for a
interesting card.
third time then.
Yeah, well, you just keep like gaining life, I guess. It's pretty useless as long as this card is out, because they can't win.
It's just something that just popped in
Yeah.
my head. Now I know. And if we're wrong about it, please let us know that Kyle is incorrect.
Or let us know what kind of weird rules interactions you've had with Platinum Angel, because there are a lot of them, let's be honest.
Who knows, we might cause mass hysteria with that.
Might. Anyway, that's speaking of which, that goes to our last card on the list here. Number 10 is Mass Hysteria. This is around $10 to $11. Has been pretty constant since we first made this list. It is a 1-mana red enchantment with a very simple effect that gives all creatures, all, including your opponents, haste. So, I don't know if any of you are familiar with a card called Concordant Crossroads.
I was just about to bring that
yeah,
up.
basically this exact same thing in green, giving all creatures haste. That card is busted, and this is no less busted for different reasons.
Well, it is and it isn't. So, like, example of what you're saying, the haste is great, but with Concordant Crossroads, that's off color. Red has haste. So, like, you giving it to all players isn't exactly good, because you could literally just run a creature called Anger, put that into the graveyard, and as long as it's in there and you control a mountain, all your creatures have haste for the rest of the game.
But this is 1 mana. It comes out on the first turn and completely changes the dynamic of the entire game.
I'm just going to also say you play a Faithless Looting on turn 1 for 1 mana, you dump it.
Yeah, oh, I'm not arguing saying that I would play this every time. I definitely wouldn't. Giving everything haste is dangerous. But the only reason you're playing something like this is because you have some kind of dumb shenanigans combo in mind.
Or
there's no other reason to do it. Give their opponents that advantage.
Yeah, or you have a gifting deck where it's like you're playing Zedru, and it's like, all right, I'll go ahead.
It doesn't really matter if you give it away because everybody has the same global effect. That's very true.
Like, I'll give you this. I'll take your Mirari's Wake, or I'll take something like gives me stupid value.
Right.
Sure. A Necropotence. Why not? Like, sure. Yeah. So I don't know if this one's really that good, like you're saying. Again, only because it's in red. If this was in black or white, it would probably be a lot higher in dollar value.
It might be, but like I said, any card like this that just gives all creatures haste is dangerous because it can enable some really dumb things. So it's definitely something to watch out for. I've never seen this one played, though. I've seen Concordant Crossroads played a lot, but not this one.
Yeah, I guess green really needs it.
Yeah, I guess it does.
But that is going to conclude the last of our money cards. These are, again, the ones that we were not allowed to pick from when we chose our hidden gems. So let us know if any of these cards actually struck you as something new. Some of these are old favorites that I've seen play in the game, but like some like Necrogen Mist, I've never seen before.
Yeah, well, Mirrodin was a very impactful set, so there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt that a lot of these cards will stick in people's minds. So we can also be found all over social media. If you want some more content, you can go to Reddit, you can go to Tapped Out, where we have a bunch of our deck lists. You can also visit us on Facebook and Twitter, and you can find us all at the handle TheCardPool.
And until then, I'm Stu.
I'm Kyle.
And we'll see you next time at TheCardPool. But like Platinum Angel, I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, that is incredible!
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Oh my god!
It is really incredible. What an awesome card, for sure.